on here.
Rolling everywhere. Rolling on everywhere. All right, hot takes. And away we go.
Oh man, Larson, I'm ready for some hot takes. I want my takes hotter than you like your hot apple pies.
It'll be some molten hot takes then.
Oh.
You got one to start with. You said you found one that is a fairly hot take. Give it to me.
This is searing hot. X-Spector says CM Punk was never a great wrestler. He was an okay wrestler during a time where the bar for talent was extremely low. If today's talent pool was in 2011, he would be below average at best with decent mic skills. If today's talent pool was in 2011, wait, he's in today's talent pool.
Yeah, he is.
He's injured right now, but
I'd say when he's not on the injured list, yeah, he's in today's talent
he had a
pool.
whole run in AEW where he was within today's talent pool.
So I'll say this. CM Punk is more than what a decent promo. He's a very good promo.
Yeah.
He can be a very good wrestler. He's not a crisp wrestler. His wrestling in-ring has never been the crispest. It's a little on the sloppy side, but he's a good in-ring storyteller, so it kind of makes up for it.
Here's the thing about that, though. I loved that about... The thing about CM Punk is he is, in my opinion, one of those guys who does what he can to make it look, quote-unquote, real. And he makes it look, and maybe it's because he's not the most athletic guy in the world, and that's not a slam. I think that he's one of the best storytellers in the ring.
Yeah, he's not terribly athletic, though.
But he's not terribly athletic, which means by the time his match is over, he is gassed. He looks like he's been through a war. That's how I prefer my wrestlers to be. That's why I was such a fan of his back in the day, because he really went in there and it made it look like he left everything he had in the ring. That makes him a great wrestler, because I also thought his matches were really compelling. So yeah. And then, I mean, today's talent pool, he'd be below average at best with decent mic skills. And I think that he's great on the mic. I really do. I think he can go out there.
He's very, very good.
And he can just, talk, and nobody gets bored with it. So yeah, hard disagree. I like 2 weeks in a row now. We're starting off with something hot, man.
I know.
This is hot. Well, let me dovetail into this one then.
Sure.
Hut Rod says CM Punk is only popular because of the pipe bomb.
Well, he was popular before the pipe bomb too. That obviously kicked him up another level. But he was people were chanting. There's a video clip of him in the ring with Shawn Michaels and Triple H, and the crowd back then, 2011 or something like that. Early in that, he had long hair still. They were chanting CM Punk.
He was kind of the Daniel Bryan of the WWE before Daniel Bryan.
He was a multi-time world champion before he ever dropped the pipe bomb.
Yeah, I think I even hesitate to compare it to although it might be apropos. Let me get your thoughts on it. Like, his pipe bomb is sort of akin to Austin 316 in terms of what it did for each wrestler.
Yeah.
Sort of kicked him up to another level. Or the pipe bomb could be and then Money in the Bank could be his WrestleMania against Bret Hart in 97.
Yeah.
I could see that as being a parallel.
There's some this bit analogous, yes.
Like, everybody, it's like, it's no different than I don't know, you can take a look at any artist, if you will, if you want to make the analogy that pro wrestling is an art, which I like too. I think it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Storytelling medium is an art, yes.
Like, you often see this with filmmakers. They build up their resume until they make their piece
de
resistance, right?
Yes, their magnum opus.
There you go, their magnum opus. Bands, you get, what's the first Radiohead one? Something Honey?
Pablo Honey. It's
Pablo
not a very
Honey.
good record.
You got the Bends, and then, OK Computer.
Magnum opus.
And so CM Punk, he had all that stuff. He had the Royal Rumble when he was sitting there and he was looking at his watch, and then he was
dropping promos mid-Rumble, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
He was doing that stuff.
Yeah.
But then his magnum opus was the pipe bomb. He was building to that moment, and it was a culmination, and a logical culmination, if you will.
Yes.
This is today. I'm just defending old Phil.
Yeah, I guess so. He's number one Phil Brooks fan, no longer number one Cody fan. Going back to being number one CM Punk fan.
Throw up your ones, Larson. I'm number one Rock fan now.
There we go. King Pertov. This is one I agree with. Watching wrestling at home is better than watching wrestling live in person. Outside of small independent shows, I agree with this. I had an eye-opening experience at Dynamite we went last year. I actually vastly enjoy watching televised wrestling more on television than I do live.
Was that so? I honestly did not realize that that experience, the Sacramento Dynamite, was a fulcrum point in your life.
It really was. And maybe it's part of it. I'm in my mid-40s. You know, I don't have the energy, the patience that I did in my 20s and 30s. I feel more comfortable watching televised wrestling at home because I get bored during the commercial breaks. There's too much starting and stopping. It feels like a more fluid experience watching at home because usually if I'm watching at home, either it's recorded, so commercial, fast forward, or if I'm watching it live, guess what? Commercial break, I can go do something for a couple minutes. I don't have to sit there.
Yeah.
And I don't have to deal with $12 hot dogs, $8 bottles of water at home. I pay far less for those things at the grocery store than I would at the arena. Yeah, televised wrestling, I'd rather watch it at home. Absolutely.
I think my fault. Well, you know what my fulcrum moment was.
Yeah, it was WrestleMania 33.
Yeah. No more. I'm not doing that shit anymore. But like, I don't know. I kind of like, for me personally, I feel like on the Dynamite thing, it was also a really bad Dynamite.
It was not a good Dynamite.
It was not a good Dynamite. And I think if you mix in sort of like TV wrestling with a bad product, then it's unbearable.
Yeah.
It's absolutely unbearable. If you mix it in with like a really fun product, then it helps mask it. But by and large, I'm with you, man. I got a nice setup out there with my, I got the recliners and I got the big screen. Oh, man, nothing beats watching wrestling at home.
You can't beat that.
Help support Friendo Club by going to patreon.com/Steven Larson or clicking join at youtube.com/Steven Larson. Access to bonus episodes, question threads for the Going In Raw podcast, and entry to our monthly wrestling predictions challenges. Join the Friendo Club today.
Aaron David here says Carmelo has a much higher ceiling than Trick Williams. Not only has Carmelo shown the ability to be a heel or a face and has much more in-ring potential, Trick, as of now, seems to be comparatively have much fewer tricks in his book. Here's the thing. Carmelo wrestled on the independents for a good number of years. He has a wealth of experience, especially relative to Trick Williams, who I don't think wrestled at all prior to starting at the Performance Center.
True.
Trick is right now a better talker than Carmelo. And that's not a slight at Carmelo. I think he's a decent talker. Trick is top tier.
He's one of the best at WWE.
Yeah. I mean, they both got a wealth of charisma. Carmelo is obviously the better in-ring worker.
Sure.
Trick, I feel like, has a lot more potential at this point to be a WrestleMania main event caliber talent than just about anybody else in NXT. And not to say Carmelo isn't in that company as well. I think, with the right creative, he could definitely be a main event talent. You watch Trick, you just see so much potential. And room for growth still, even though he is at this moment pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So I guess the potential for a higher ceiling I feel like would probably be Trick, but it's not by a huge magnitude. Carmelo's great. I think he's got the potential to be a massive superstar in his own right.
I will make this bold prediction, which will play out over the next 20 years when we're long and retired. Trick Williams will be a world champion, and Carmelo Hayes never will be. I do, because I think the thing is,
the most shocking part of that statement is you think we'll be able to retire in 10 years.
I said 20.
Oh, even that.
You're underselling Trick, and I'll die on this hill, man. He has the potential to be the next Cena. He really, honest to God, does. Part of it has to do simply with his size, his look, his charisma, his in-ring. We'll get there. What have we said so many times here? The characters matter more than what goes on in the ring. And as long as you have a certain amount in the ring that can get it done, the character and the story will drive the rest of it, and that will put you over the top. I love Carmelo Hayes. I think he's terrific. I think he's really good on the mic. Maybe I got to see a lot more, but the heel turn seemed like a standard I'm jealous of you heel turn thing, and that's just chalked up to creative. But like, I don't think that he sold it as well as maybe I think this person thinks he did, and maybe Trick could be a great heel. I don't know. All I know is that Trick Williams has got that next level charisma.
Oh yeah, he's great.
That not only does Carmella Hayes not have? 99% of the roster doesn't have it either. So it's no slight to him. I think he's great. I think Carmella's awesome. And if they want to tell a 10-year-long story, then yeah, maybe Carmella will win the world title, and I'll be wrong about that. Because I think he's probably world championship material, but there's so much good talent.
Yeah, there's a lot of
that
good
you
talent
could say
out
that
there.
about a lot of people who aren't going to win the world title.
Yeah.
Trick ain't one of them. Trick is that good. He is that magnetic.
Yeah.
So I disagree, man. I think that the gulf is pretty big between Trick and a lot of other people.
Yeah. I think far and away you see the talent in NXT. The most obvious future WB main event, at least in the men's division, is Trick.
Yeah.
I don't think it's terribly close. Kyle Miller here says Tony Khan has been the most important person in wrestling in the last 10 years. Hot take.
I probably agree with that one.
Yeah, I don't think I could disagree with that based on the formation of AEW and what that's meant to the wrestling industry.
Here's the thing. Most important doesn't, it's like a, Times Man of the Year or Person of the Year.
It doesn't mean like
they're the best person.
Best good,
Yeah, right, exactly. It just means that they are the most important. Like they were responsible for a major sea change in wrestling.
Yeah.
And nobody can argue that Tony Khan was not responsible for a major sea change in wrestling. Yeah, you could say Cody, the Bucks, Kenny. No, they don't have $1 billion.
No.
They don't have all that money to spend. They don't have the connections to get on cable television. So, like, Tony Khan saw the talent. He knew that there was a market for him. And he started a major wrestling promotion that's having a lot of people get paid.
Oh, this isn't necessarily a hot take, but this feels good to read. So Zoe here says, the way you guys talk about the storytelling, production, the cinematography of how wrestling is shot has opened new perspectives for me and others about what wrestling is and how it should be presented. You guys aren't given enough credit for how creative you are when it comes to analyzing and critiquing wrestling programming. Only ones who do it like that. Appreciate that. That's very nice to say.
But then it's a hashtag acknowledge Friendo Club.
Acknowledge Friendo Club.
Thank you, though. That's a very nice thing to say, Zoe. I appreciate that.
Much appreciated. Officer Dude, this is a good one. When you leave WWE, you're expected to finally have self-control and be able to show the fans what you can really do when unleashed. The moment you show up as the same Edge we saw a month before, then you just wasted it, and I don't care anymore. I don't disagree with that. I think when WWE wrestlers become free agents, whether it's via a release, they unfortunately lose their job, or they decide to sign elsewhere. The idea is, well, let's see what they can do outside of the WWE creative umbrella, both from a character perspective in ring. And then you got someone like, let's say, Swerve Strickland, who you saw bits of what he could do especially during the Hit Row time in NXT and a little bit on the main roster. The Hit Row was on the main roster. You saw glimpses of what he could be when he had more control of his creative, and that really blossomed in AEW, and he's doing spectacular work. Or we have someone like Adam Cole, who he was doing great work in NXT. Just kind of want to see what he could do on the main roster, being that same character. He came to AEW, basically the same character. He was doing comparable work, but it was still of a good enough quality that you're not going to quibble about it. And then you got, for example, Nick Nemeth, Edge, people who move from one company to another for whatever reason, and just kind of do the same thing. And it does feel a bit underwhelming. You want to see wrestlers now with more control over what they can do, more freedom over what they could do, explore more options, and when they kind of just lean back on the familiar, it is a bit underwhelming. I don't disagree with that.
Dude, it has to be a pretty. I wonder if there's even consideration for a guy like Edge or Nick Nemeth to attempt to do something different or so different than what they did before.
Yeah.
Because those guys, you can make the case. You can make the case that Edge reinvented himself on multiple occasions.
In WWE? Yeah.
In WWE.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I know that seems obvious, right? But I don't know. Was he ever compelled? There was that span of time when he was a bad guy and everybody loved him, and I get it. But I don't know. He was, I guess, look, it's difficult for me to talk about Edge because he's just never my cup of tea.
Same.
None of the reinventions did anything for me. And I think maybe that's why I say you can make the case. He did. That case is made. Like, he reinvented himself multiple occasions.
Yeah, definitely.
The one that I liked the most was the comedic one,
Yeah.
which is what basically Christian sort of ended up doing in AEW, which works so well.
Yeah.
And so maybe he'll get back to that.
Yeah, they'll reunite and they'll lean back on the nostalgia aspect of the Edge and Christian stuff.
But if somebody's going to pay you like $1 million to come into their company, chances are they're going to want what they know. So, like, why would they reinvent themselves?
I understand that perspective, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a wholesale reinvention.
Well, he's doing the 70. He's doing this
The Grindhouse stuff.
the Sammy Callahan grind stuff.
Yeah,
Grindhouse.
he took Sammy Callahan's Death Machine gimmick. I think perhaps most disappointingly, I don't know, most disappointing, but in terms of recent wrestlers going somewhere else, being disappointed to a degree was Nick Nemeth. Yeah, hope to a degree, because it definitely felt like his gimmick at WWE had basically run its course. Like, he needed a change. He needed to reinvent himself. And now here's an opportunity to do it. And it's the same gear, same vibe, same Motley Crue inspired type theme and presentation. And it's like, you have an opportunity to really, like, look at someone like Mustafa Ali, who is constantly trying to find a new angle for his character, a new presentation that really resonates. And it's a bummer that WWE didn't run with a lot of the things that he pitched or presented, because a lot of them were really good. And now he has this thing that he's running with, and like every show he's on is a sellout. He's like, it's basically a wild success on the independent circuit right now, and he's got this brand new presentation that he's doing something that's different than what I know he pitched it well in WWE, and they shot stuff, but they never did anything with it in WWE.
You know, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a fan of the politician thing.
Yeah. It's something different.
I don't. These days, I want politicians far away from me. I don't want any of that shit in my wrestling. I kind of, somebody from Hawaii was calling me. Look, I think
anybody in Hawaii, do you?
Honestly, at this point, the gold standard is what's his face, Matt Cardona.
Yeah.
That's the absolute gold standard, because he took what he was and he was able to flip it on its head to wildly entertaining results.
Yep.
That right there is the gold standard.
Yep.
But it's ballsy to do that.
It is.
It is ballsy to do that.
But he's reaping the benefits of taking that chance.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like it was a haphazard thing. It was obvious. He put a lot of thought into what he was going to do.
Absolutely, yeah. He's an incredibly creative guy, and I wonder if the others, they just were reliant. Here's the thing. I think Edge is probably a creative guy in his own right. Like, he wanted to do the whole Judgment Day thing, and then WWE is warping that to whatever, wanting to be a supernatural thing. But I just don't know that his creative appeals to me necessarily.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's got to. Yeah, I understand that. It's got to resonate.
I maintain Edge, Adam Copeland, seems like a really nice guy, and because of that, I want him to succeed.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, like, it's just what he does on TV doesn't do much for me.
No, I agree.
You know?
It doesn't really do much for me either.
Hope he wins that title though. Kiddo Hudson Live says WCW was more influential than ECW in many ways to the industry and how we watch the product. They brought us weekly live shows on Nitro, bigger production, big main event matches instead of a bunch of jobber matches like early Raw, more pay-per-views, and real competition for WWE, something ECW couldn't do.
I don't know if I could necessarily disagree with that. Who was that? Kiddo Hudson?
Kiddo Hudson, yeah.
Kiddo Hudson, you mentioned NWO at all, and what a sea change that was in terms of presenting wrestling as more real, if you will. Mm-hmm. Bischoff, to his credit, brought in a lot of luchadors and international talent to WCW. I know WCW had partnerships, I think, with New Japan even before the Nitro days, but bringing in Rey Mysterio and Psychosis and Juventud Guerrero and Guerrera, and so many other talents from around the world to WCW and exposing their talents to American audiences. You got to, and I know ECW did that before, bringing in Ray and Juventud and whatnot. But in terms of a show that was broadcast on cable, it was pretty huge.
No, I agree. I think WCW way more than because if you remember, when I started hanging out with you, WCW is what we watched.
Yeah, that was the A program for us.
It was. And because honestly, it just looked better. Seemed more productive. It seemed like bigger. It seemed like a bigger deal. Like they were able to successfully repackage all those old 80s guys into relevant 90s guys.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is that it tickled the nostalgia bone in that you had names we were familiar with, but they were repackaged in a way that seemed topical and relevant.
Yeah, exactly. And plus they had like a great crop of young guys like Raven and all them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with this. It forced WWF to step up their game, and eventually WCW, they just started shooting themselves in the foot.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I agree with that one. Anyways, that's going to do it for Hot Takes. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Appreciate it. Hit that subscribe, hit that thumbs up, and all that stuff.
Goodbye.